For 10 years, training a serious AI model meant one thing: buy NVIDIA, write CUDA, and swallow the bill. This year, that rule cracked, and not because of another chip company. Anthropic just locked in rights to up to 1 million Google TPUs. Meta is in talks to rent them, maybe even buy them outright. And Broadcom's AI chip revenue grew 143% in a single year. Here's the tell: NVIDIA didn't shrug this off, it publicly fired back. You don't answer a threat you don't take seriously. The twist? The company prying open NVIDIA's armor isn't selling a better GPU. It's Google going around CUDA entirely, with its own chip, its own software, and its own billion-user apps. Welcome to the AI ledger. Today, how the crack opened, which side the Asian supply chain is on, and who actually wins this game.
Hi, I'm Amin Vadat, and I lead the AI and infrastructure organization at Google. We're in one of the TPU labs where we're building the future of computing. These racks power the AI you use every day, but today I want to show you the engine behind the next generation. Let's see what's inside.
TPU versus GPU isn't two chips, it's two opposite philosophies. A GPU is a general-purpose accelerator, it runs anything, and NVIDIA used CUDA to lock in every AI engineer on Earth. That's been the strongest moat in tech for a decade. The TPU tensor processing unit is the opposite. Since 2014, Google has custom-built it for one job: its own AI. Engineers call this an ASIC, an application-specific chip. Google's Play is a chip tuned obsessively for matrix math, plus its own compiler, plus Gemini, plus apps with 1 billion users. Put simply, NVIDIA sells a do-anything engine with software everyone already knows. Google builds the entire AI production line from silicon to app and owns every layer. For 12 years, TPUs only ran Google's own search, YouTube, and Gemini, inside Google. The real turn in 2026 is this: for the first time, Google is selling TPUs as a business, to outsiders straight into NVIDIA's territory. AI compute just went from one monopoly to at least 2 competing roads.
Generation tensor processing unit. And today, it's available to Google Cloud customers. And here next to me, you can see a fully engineered accelerator tray. I love the pipes that run over each and every chip for liquid cooling. The exponential demand for AI means general-purpose hardware can't keep up. We have been able to...
Google can sell TPUs because the hardware is real. The 7th generation TPU, codenamed Ironwood, went live on April 22, 2026. Each chip carries 192 gigabytes of HBM memory, roughly 7.37 terabytes per second of bandwidth, and about 4,614 teraflops of FP8 compute. On raw inference performance, a single Ironwood already edges out NVIDIA's latest Blackwell GB200. One pod links 9,216 chips through Google's own optical switching, the full rack acting as one supercomputer. But here's the phrase to remember: Ironwood is inference-first. AI's cost structure is shifting from training to billions of inferences a day, and whoever drives down the cost per inference wins. Analysts estimate TPUs can cut inference costs by as much as 80% versus GPUs. So the first crack in NVIDIA's monopoly didn't come from a copycat GPU. It came from a completely different road: silicon to app, fully integrated, and Ironwood just posted a spec sheet that beats Blackwell. The first punch came from Anthropic, the company behind Claude, widely seen as the most serious frontier model challenger to OpenAI. On October 23, 2025, Anthropic announced a major expansion of Google TPUs, rights to up to 1 million chips, worth tens of billions of dollars, bringing over 1 gigawatt of compute online in 2026. In April 2026 it doubled down, signing multi-gigawatt deals with Google and Broadcom, targeting up to 5 gigawatts by 2027. The reason is blunt: price performance. And the demand is real. Anthropic's annualized revenue jumped from around $9 billion in late 2025 to over $30 billion. Here's why it matters: this is a demonstration effect. For any customer wanting to escape single-vendor lock-in on NVIDIA, Anthropic just proved the path works. This isn't one order, it's a public certificate to the whole industry that a TPU can carry a world-class model. The second punch hits harder, because it lands in NVIDIA's most loyal customer base. In March 2026, reports surfaced that Meta and Google had reached a multi-billion-dollar agreement, rent TPUs in 2026, and possibly buy them outright in 2027 to deploy in Meta's own data centers. If that plays out, Meta becomes the first outside giant to run TPUs at scale in its own facilities. That's a loud signal because Meta is one of NVIDIA's biggest buyers. For 3 years, a serious chunk of Meta's quarterly capex has flowed straight into NVIDIA's order book. When your largest customer starts openly shopping for alternatives, it tells the whole industry. NVIDIA's irreplaceable story just got questioned by a top customer, in actions, for the first time. 2 business implications. 1. The risk of NVIDIA's revenue being concentrated in a handful of mega customers is now out in the open. 2. Nobody can leave. CUDA just took a hit from Meta itself. Why dare? Same answer: price performance, plus wanting bargaining power back over its own compute supply. The third punch is Broadcom, the most overlooked, and most profitable, player in this story. Behind every TPU is an iron triangle. Google supplies the design concept, Broadcom co-designs the custom silicon, and TSMC manufactures it. Broadcom and Google have run this TPU partnership across 7 generations since 2014. The earnings tell the story. In fiscal Q1 2026, Broadcom's AI revenue hit $8.4 billion, up 106% year-over-year. Q2 hit $10.8 billion, up 143%. CEO Hock Tan publicly guided AI semiconductor revenue toward roughly $56 billion for fiscal 2026, and a $100 billion target for 2027, with Google TPU orders as the biggest pillar. The proof point is Google itself. Its 2026 capex plan runs $175 to $185 billion, flowing straight into Broadcom's books. Broadcom's AI backlog already sits near $73 billion. So, Anthropic gives the demonstration effect, Meta delivers the valuation shock, Broadcom turns it into hard cash. 3 punches at once. That's why NVIDIA finally broke its silence. So far the picture flatters Google. But the real decider in this war isn't the spec sheet, it's whether you can actually get around CUDA. TPUs win on paper, but NVIDIA's moat was never the GPU hardware. It's the CUDA software ecosystem. Millions of AI engineers worldwide already build on CUDA. And this is exactly where Google is stuck. TPUs were tuned for Google's own JAX and XLA frameworks, but the world's developers live in PyTorch. Porting an existing model from GPU to TPU often means rewriting 60 to 80% of the code. Industry estimates put migration at $2 to $5 million per large model. Google's counter is PyTorch XLA and a Torch TPU bridge layer, to crush that switching cost. But many analysts still rate TPUs only a secondary threat to NVIDIA, and the hardest gate isn't performance, it's convincing the PyTorch world to move. Whether this crack widens into a real hole comes down to one thing: can Google sell its compiler-first software philosophy to developers who grew up on CUDA? Now the Asia angle, and this is where the AI ledger sees what US-focused channels miss. This fight means something very different for the Asian supply chain than the GTC story did, so keep them separate. First, TSMC is the house that wins either way. Both NVIDIA's Blackwell and Google's TPU rely on TSMC's advanced process plus CoWoS packaging. Whoever wins the AI race, the wafer and packaging orders land at TSMC. The one selling shovels doesn't pick a side. Second, and this is the key nuance, the downstream winners are completely different. NVIDIA's GB200 NVL72 rack solution feeds the AI server assemblers, Foxconn, Quanta, Wistron. But the TPU runs a closed loop, Google's own design, Broadcom's co-engineering, Google's own data centers. That server assembly ecosystem barely gets a slice of the TPU pie. That distinction is the single most important thing when you judge who really benefits. Third, the cross-camp winners, the parts both sides need, are CoWoS, ABF substrates, liquid cooling, PCBs, and optical interconnect. Bottom line, TSMC still wins. But AI server assembly and advanced packaging, 2 roles Asian suppliers play, start splitting into very different fates as the TPU rises. Illustrative examples only, not financial advice. That said, 3 big risks have to be digested before you decide how wide this crack really gets. 1. The software adoption ceiling. If PyTorch engineers won't move, TPU share stalls at the mega customers and struggles to reach smaller AI shops. 2. Capacity crowd-out. Google has to feed its own Gemini training first, so how many TPUs it can actually release to Meta and Anthropic is a question mark. If internal demand spikes, those for-rent promises could slip. 3. And the most hidden, circular financing. Google invests in Anthropic, and Anthropic spends big renting Google's TPUs. That's the same loop to watch as NVIDIA investing in OpenAI while OpenAI buys NVIDIA GPUs. When buyer and seller are really the same pool of capital circulating, the market will eventually re-examine how much of this demand is real pull and how much is an accounting loop. In one line, TPUs winning on paper already forced NVIDIA to respond, but PyTorch inertia, capacity crowd-out, and circular financing are the 3 gates that decide whether the crack becomes the hole that breaks the CUDA moat. That's today's read on the AI business. Let's tie the 3 chapters together. 1. NVIDIA's CUDA empire just showed its first real crack, not opened by another GPU company, but by Google going around it with vertical integration, its own chip, its own compiler, Gemini, and a billion-user app stack. The 7th-gen TPU Ironwood already beats Blackwell GB200 on paper inference, and for the first time, Google is selling TPUs as an outside business. 2. 3 punches turned that crack into a market event. Anthropic's up to 1 million TPU deal gave the demonstration effect. Meta's talks to rent or buy drove competitive pressure into NVIDIA's most loyal base, and Broadcom AI revenue up 143%, a $73 billion backlog turned TPU-for-rent into real revenue. Together, they made NVIDIA break its silence. 3. The real decider is the software ecosystem. CUDA versus PyTorch is the final battlefield. And for Asia, TSMC still wins both sides, but AI server assembly and advanced packaging start to diverge in value as TPUs rise. 3 questions to leave you with. Does NVIDIA's irreplaceable narrative still hold? As the TPU road rewrites the customer mix for AI server assembly, who gets marginalized? And when circular financing gets re-examined, how much real demand is left? None of this is investment advice, just the business behind the chips. If this helped, hit subscribe and share the AI ledger with someone else tracking AI. See you in the next one.